Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, Dan Rafael is reporting that the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford rematch is likely not to happen. This is not necessarily surprising to you and I, Jay. We hope that Errol Spence will get the opportunity to face Terence Crawford in a rematch because, of course, you know, we always want to see an opportunity for a person to redeem themselves in terms of a performance that they've had that was not the best performance that they could have put forth. But it doesn't seem like this fight is going to materialize. Now, Dan Rafael is mentioning that, there's a number of different reasons why the rematch probably won't happen, which includes the fact that Errol Spence recently had cataract surgery and, of course, will not be able to get back into the ring. We did see Errol Spence jumping rope. It's really hard to tell whether or not that was recent, whether the cataract surgery was recent. I don't know what was recent and what was not. Because it really doesn't make sense for him to be jump roping just a few weeks after having cataract surgery. With that being said, Jay, I always like to take a business perspective on this. And to be quite honest with you, I would have thought from even last year that the economics around the actual fight wouldn't make sense for the promoters, PBC, specifically the amount of money that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence would probably want for a rematch. They did 650,000 pay-per-view buys, which is a little bit light as far as I'm concerned, considering all the hype that was around this fight for so long. I always thought that the fight marinated for just a little too long. I think the fight should have actually happened in 2022, or at least been signed in 2022, and somewhere along the line, somewhere around, I would say probably like November when they first canceled that fight, and all the way to maybe like April. I would say April. The fight just started to lose momentum. Even myself, and I think even you, we just had moved on. So now when you look at, how one-sided the fight was in favor of Terence Crawford, it's challenging to sell a rematch without Errol Spence at least having an interim fight where he looks good. So I'm thinking that's the reason why this fight probably won't materialize next. And if it's not materializing next, it's probably not going to materialize at all, because I just feel like Terence Crawford is not going to circle back to Errol Spence for what at this point, if he's not forced into a rematch. He's already been there, kind of done that. And if it's not going to pay the dividends that he's looking for, there's no reason for him to circle back. So, Jay, what's your thoughts on this? Dan Rafael reporting that the Spence versus Terence Crawford fight is likely not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm interested in what the variety of reasons is what he's talking about as well. He didn't get specific on that. He just mentioned the cataract as one. I mean,
variety of reasons is a variety of dollars.
Yeah, but I'd rather him say it. We talked about that, alluded to that, just like you stated earlier. As far as the money that they're both going to command on the rematch, the money's not really there to be had because of the prior fight. And I'm all for Spence getting a rematch and everything, but from a business standpoint, it doesn't necessarily make sense for them because a lot of people aren't going to really tune into it like they did for the first time. I'm going to watch it just because we watch boxing. That's what we do. And I still support Spence and everything. I would love for him to get a chance to get his get back, but it seems like the longer it waits, the less likely it's going to happen. Bud's already 36 years old. Bud already feels a certain type of way about not getting the credit for the fight already. So he feels like if he does it again, he's not going to get any credit then. Like you said, he's been there, done that, and he dominated the first fight, so he didn't feel like a need to do it again because it wasn't close for him to have to prove himself. He wants to pretty much get a large payday, the retiring fat, and the way he wants to. He wants one more, and like you said, as far as the business aspect, it doesn't sound like it's going to be there for the rematch. I know it was people say, well, it was in the contract. The contract also said they need to fight in 2023. That didn't happen. So is there exceptions? None of us are privy to the contract because we weren't there. We don't have copies of that. We can just go by what's been put out there. But what was put out there a lot was they had to have the fight by the end of last year. It didn't happen for whatever reason it may have been, whether it was for Showtime no longer carrying boxing after 2023, sports in general, wasn't just boxing, it's sports in general, or something else, but either way, it's taking too long. Spence just having the surgery just earlier this month, and then all the crazy reports out there. Oh, Spence, like I saw some report, someone said, oh, Spence, like he's like 200 plus pounds. Like, how can you tell his weight from the jump roping video when he was also wearing a vest as well? You know, we had just seen Spence a few weeks prior to that on his latest profile, and they were out at the beach or whatever. He didn't look that overweight. He didn't look in fight shape, but he didn't look that people talking about like 200 some pounds. They out their damn mind saying something like that. You know, then but coming out saying, well, 147 was supposed to be the fight for the rematch, what he thought, and all this crazy stuff. So a lot of extra stuff, weeds in there thrown into this whole ordeal. So it's probably not going to happen, you know, based on just the way things have been going. But I've been surprised before. So if it does happen, of course, we're going to watch it, but I'm not too high on it anymore.
I don't think it's going to happen. You know, what was his name? Salvador Rodriguez mentioned that it seems like right now Terence Crawford could be in play for Canelo Alvarez in September. That will be a long time, though, for Terence Crawford not to have been in the ring. We're talking about over a year. So I don't know if he will be interested in taking an interim fight before that. But, and it just based off where Spence is, I don't know if an interim fight. I mean, I guess you could actually, because we're just in January. So Spence, 2 months will put March, could start training. You could possibly have a fight in June. It would be close for Terence Crawford. I would say that he wouldn't have a whole lot of time for in between. But I mean, that could possibly work for Crawford, because Crawford may be looking for 1 or 2 more fights. Specifically, if he were to get that rematch with Errol Spence, it would still be the best payday he's going to get in and around that weight class.
Yeah.
So if he were to get into the ring with Spence and then turn around and get into the ring with Canelo Alvarez, if I'm him, man, I call it a day, regardless of what happens. You know, if he can, get in the ring with Errol Spence and rematch him and be successful. Let me put that caveat out there. Then you go on and you fight Canelo Alvarez, regardless of what the outcome is in that fight. I'm hanging him up if I'm Terence Crawford, and I can line that up, right? If I can get to Canelo Alvarez through Errol Spence, that's probably optimal, and I'm out. So
that's the best route for him to go, really. I mean, maximize his dollars for sure on that, So I mean, plus we don't know if that contract is still iron shut for him to have to fight Spence in his last, because he only has one more fight deal with PBC, and that's what will be the rematch with Spence. So we don't know what he can do or what he can't do on that. But if I'm doing, like, to your point, that's an excellent way to go out on style as far as money wise. Fight rematch Spence like May, June, then turn around, fight Canelo, and you out. You out of there. So
I see it the same way, man. I see it the same way. So you guys tell me what you think, or tell us what you think in regards to Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, the news from Dan Rafael, and do you believe that the fight will actually materialize some point in 2024? I've been skeptical of the fight actually happening since late last year, but then, of course, with some of the changes or the things that had happened, I thought Terence Crawford didn't have necessarily the same options as before, so it could possibly happen, but I don't know. We'll see. You guys tell us what you think. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.